Let's talk about this now. The stress of living from paycheck to paycheck has gripped many workers. As the cost of living rises, some consumers battle to finish the month because with enough fuel, transport or money to simply keep their heads above water until the end of the month. Now, one company seeks to try and assist without adding the headache of loans. Let's find out how with Bryan Habana, who's Paymenow co-founder and chief commercial officer. Thank you so much for your time this evening. How does this all work?
I'm so lovely to be talking to you. I think firstly from an earned wage access platform that from a Paymenow perspective really goes from a B to B to C that allows employers to not only give their employees access to money they have effectively already earned, smooth and optimize the payroll process, but in a way just make those that are needing money to potentially get to work to earn money, that opportunity, because in South Africa we live in a very formally cash-strapped economy, and by the vicious fees that the microlenders, the payday lenders out there, and people not really understanding, what the long-lasting effects of getting into that debt cycle is, but also that so many don't have the correct and adequate ability to get access to liquidity throughout the course of the month, forcing them to go to these very exorbitant fee structures that hopefully, an organization like Paymenow and its tech really does allow for payroll optimization.
And let's talk then about that, because there's a concern that, sometimes with such agreements may come interest and which may be unaffordable. Is there an interest that is incurred here?
So there's no interest. I think the mechanics around the earned wage access or on-demand pay platform is it's not a rolling ongoing thing. So if you don't use the platform, there's no subscription fee. There is a fee cost associated with being able to put money into the bank account where your salary gets paid, obviously to avoid any risk, money laundering, theft or fraud, making sure that that employees bank account details are held with the utmost privacy and security. But just trying to smoothen that process. So the fee structure in what is a very vicious market is 5 to 10 times cheaper than what the National Credit Act actually allows a formal unsecured microlender or payday lender to charge, and hopefully in so doing get quick access to money that you have already earned.
And, a lot of people talk about how difficult these times are for them. What does the data tell us about why people want money, particularly mid-month, if they're not even able to finish a month?
And to your point, what we see on Paymenow is that between 35 and 40% of employees who use the Paymenow platform are actually cashing out money to get transport to work, and that unfortunate vicious cycle of needing money cash in hand to get into public transport. And unfortunately in South Africa there's no adequate sort of prepayment method for transport, because we just don't have that. So it's not like in the developed market economies like London where you can tap your Oyster card or tap your credit card, because unfortunately only 1 out of 8 people in South Africa have access to that. So the ability to get access then to your own money, which becomes really responsible because people know they can't duck and dive, borrow from Sally to give to Paul. It is their own money and they then use it much more responsibly, for basic necessity of being able to get to work. For food, we see being used for about 20 to 25%. And, that just really shows that basic needs of necessity type products is what people are needing money to actually earn money.
So does this then mean then that as an employee, if I want access to this, my employer needs to be part of Paymenow?
Yes, unfortunately, we do have to sign up the employer because it literally is a financial wellness offering that the employer effectively gives to its employees. Paymenow is just the facilitator of the transaction, but it is a employer value proposition that employers, unfortunately, need to sign up for.
How bad would you say the situation has gotten since, we saw the pandemic and then fuel price increases and all of that, and quite a number of people also battling to make ends meet? How bad has it been in terms of demand on your side to have more people want to access the system?
So firstly, we all know the very tough financial times that not only employees but employers have gone through, over the vast majority of the last 2 years. Rising costs across the board, and costs are rising, but salaries aren't necessarily rising. And people are really strung to try and make the little bit they have stretch as far as possible. And from a Paymenow perspective, we've seen massive advantageous opportunities for the employer to smoothen a payroll system, because unfortunately it has also become really difficult to process a very manual, potentially daily or weekly payroll system, because when you have hundreds or thousands of staff, it just becomes virtually impossible. And through very disruptive tech and the ability to optimize that, automate the process, and in one hand make the payroll much more efficient, but on the other hand give people their dignity back by being able to allow them to access money that they've effectively worked very hard for, has seen great success. We've done over 1 million transactions since going live with Paymenow in 2020. We've got some incredible corporates on board that allows us to give more than 200,000 employees access to the platform, which really just goes to show the need for it in South Africa.
So then does it mean then, if you've taken this advance, at the end of the month that same amount will not be available on your salary, or is it taken in tranches? And how do you guard against an employee as well here abusing it and not being responsible?
So firstly, earned wage access or on-demand pay, according to the mechanics, never extends past the salary cycle. So we are not credit, we're an alternate to credit, in our opinion, at a much more disruptive and cost-effective rate. And unfortunately, people in South Africa, don't live on monthly expenses. Very many of your blue-collar workers live on an instantaneous, day-to-day type of need cash in hand environment. They need a 20 or 30 or 40 rand in the morning to get into their taxi. They need that same amount in the evening to get back. And if they don't have access to liquidity, it's very then difficult to try get into a taxi or get into a train or get into a bus. Similarly, stats in South Africa show us that your average airtime data top up is R3.50 every 3 or 4 days, which just makes you understand that it's not this monthly transactional environment that people are living in. It's an instantaneous one, and it's a very formally cash strapped one. So is repeat usage a bad thing? I fill my car up with petrol, and in a way that's sort of budgeting, because I know I get to drive around for a week or a week and a half. We know petrol prices have gone up. I don't know what it's like to live every day needing cash in hand. And hopefully through Paymenow, we allowing employers to really give their employees their dignity back, but also smoothen that process that people are really finding a lot of difficulty in.
Difficult times indeed. Let's see then how this platform does. But thank you so much for your time this evening. That was Bryan Habana, co-founder and Chief Commercial Officer of Paymenow, as they talk about real-time access to your salary just before payday.